So hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining our webinar today. This is part of our new Learning Science Design series. So our great colleague, Dominique Laws, will go ahead and introduce herself and also the concept of our webinar today. So this is called Learning Design Accessibility for All. And go ahead, Dominique.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and start the PowerPoint. I just want to thank everyone for attending today's webinar on accessibility. My name is Dominique Laws. I'm an instructional designer here on the Learning and Design Outcomes team here in C.A.L. Instructional design is really a passion for me because I get to work with so many amazing faculty like yourselves here at UDC to create learning, achievement, and outcomes that help our learners, with a multitude of goals that they have. It's that like aha, eureka moment for me that really makes this job fun and rewarding. So I look forward to teaching you guys something today and working with you all in the future. Today's focus of our webinar is understanding why accessibility is important and some of the areas where you can incorporate more accessibility into your course, as well as the resources that C.A.L offers here. So our agenda is pretty self-explanatory. I already went through my self-introduction, and I'm hoping that everyone has introduced themselves in the chat about where you're from and what your department is. Then we'll delve deeply into accessibility best practices that have been identified by Quality Matters. And then I will give you guys some of these examples, and then we'll close it out with questions and answers. So in the chat box, can you guys currently describe or list the various ways you present your course content? It could be lectures, student collaboration, videos, Socratic seminars, etc. But I'd love for you to respond in the chat, and or if you're feeling brave, you can come off mute, and we'd love to hear your voice. And David, if you wouldn't mind monitoring and sharing some of the feedback, since I can't see the chat right now.
You got it, Dominique. So I see from Dr. Brown, flipped classroom approach, PowerPoint presentation videos added to Blackboard.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then Dr. Kingberry, content is provided using UDL principles.
Okay, perfect. So you are right on task with my next slide.
Yep. And then Tim Harris, I see lectures and recorded videos. Professor Robin Cook, lecture, student collaboration, videos.
Awesome.
Yeah, great participation. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you guys for sharing. So really, C.A.L is very committed to equitable and inclusive learning design. We use a universal design for learning, and we are really committed to making sure that faculty and staff and students alike are seen, heard, and cared for in their journey through their educational path. So exactly why does accessibility matter? Well, it matters for a number of reasons. It's inclusive and provides equal access to everyone, especially people with disabilities. It promotes usability. It's the right thing to do, and it's the law. So recent data has found that almost 13% of the United States population has a disability. So that's literally maybe 1 in 3 people. When we consider accessibility in our online content design, as well as in-person design, it enhances the usability. Often it results in more intuitive user experience, and the student feels seen and heard. Accessibility allows people with disabilities to actively participate in their society and directly correlates with UDC's vision. All students will achieve their highest level of human potential. UDC, being a public, historically Black or urban focused land grant university, we are bound by federal laws to make all web-based content accessible to people with disabilities. Violating these laws can result in a loss of funding and legal action for web accessibility non-compliance. So it's really important that we make sure that we are abiding by the laws, but also respecting and including everyone that we come across. So in terms of how you should begin to think about accessibility, you want to plan your accessibility strategy around incorporating inclusive and equitable designs and taking into account the visual disabilities, the auditory disabilities, the cognitive and motor disabilities, as well as English being a second language for so many of our students. We have a plethora of international students. We are so multicultural that having that as a basis really sets you up for success in your accessibility and in your course. So accessibility best practices, Quality Matters has a standard, which includes standard 8.1 and 8 through 8.6. This is something that we use heavily in our peer reviews of course structures and content here at C.A.L. So what this includes is making sure that course pages have links and files and icons that are labeled and easy to understand. They're self-describing and they have meaningful names. Making sure that the links in the course are working properly to go internally as well as externally. When you think about courses or link design, you want to make sure, like, for example, if you were going to link to our UDC website, you would say www.udc.edu. right? That would be a clear, concise link. And then you would say UDC website as the text so that the student would know that is where it's taking them. You want to ensure that in your Blackboard shell, you allow the user to always be able to get to the home screen no matter where they are. So if they're deep in week 6 or 7, that they can hit a link and that will take them back to the course main page so that they can then further navigate through that section. Other practices include using tables to organize data and having appropriate headers. So what that means is when you're setting up your header, and I have great examples in the next few slides, when you're setting up your tables, making sure that the information is clear and concise. The C.A.L teams uses the Quality Matters rubric in our peer reviews and course design, and incorporating these elements into our course development ensures that you won't have to redo work or go back and change content due to the lack of accessibility. So we're talking about headers, making sure that you're not using inappropriate fonts, and that the information is readily available for your learners at the touch of a button. So another way of thinking about this is the layout. When you have your layout, you want to make sure that the heading and body styles are consistent throughout. So that means if you're going to use Times New Roman as your font, it's Times New Roman on all pages, through all slides and all information. You want to make sure that your font styles and sizes correlate to what is a best practice. So if you're using Times New Roman, again, just because that's a font that I've seen a lot, you want to make sure that you're using at least a font of size 12 or larger, that you're not using underlined text unnecessarily or highlights or italices, because when you have those, the screen readers that people use can sometimes misfire. You want to make sure that your images and graphics describe alt text or have descriptions that give the learner who is visually impaired an understanding of what they should be seeing on the screen. You want to avoid using colors that contrast with the background. So we always suggest using a white background with black text. And you want to make sure that when you're using colors at all, like for example, we are using colors here in our, oops, I advanced the slide, sorry. We're using colors here in our title. However, it could cause an issue with someone who has color blindness or is visually impaired. So you want to be mindful about when you use color and why you use color, and that it's not used to convey a meaning or importance. So some examples of this are when you're using tables, I've highlighted here specific information that I think is important. So when we're looking at tables, you want to make sure that the table is clear and concise with the information. You want to make sure that you're using heading style. So headings 1, 2, 3, 4 will all help the learner in their screen reader to understand the information that is being shared. So here you can see we have it bolded, course objectives, program goals, how it's evaluated. And then as they tab down or as the screen reader reads, it will give them, okay, this is heading 1, this is heading 2, and these are paragraph information. You also want to make sure that when you're looking to see if your tables have this information, what you would do is you would right click on this. So you would highlight this table on your screen, then you would right click and you would select inspect here, as you can see that I've circled and highlighted. Then that will take you to a bigger screen, as you can see at the bottom here. And when we look at the lower left-hand corner of our screen where it says overview that's highlighted, if you come and look over at the right-hand side of our screen, then you'll see that overview has a heading 4 style, and that it is then that is how it's designated. So when the screen reader is reading that information, it will show as a heading 4, and that will be able to determine what that information is for the learner. Additionally, when we talk about images and anything or graphs on the screen, you want to make sure that you have appropriate alt text. So here I've highlighted an image of Gandhi, and then I've gone to inspect as to what the alt tag says and what it is. So you can clearly see that the alt tag has information in it and it says Gandhi, but I would take it a step further, and I would actually have included more descriptions. So what I would have said was the alt text should include Gandhi with a half arcing rainbow in India national flag colors of orange, white, and green, with the quote, 7 social sins, and then have that full description there. Because if we just have an image and we say the alt text is Gandhi, and for some reason you decide that this actual quote is important for your student to know, if they're visually impaired and they are unable to see that quote, then they would not pass that particular assignment. So you want to be mindful with that and make sure that if there's any description in there that is important to you or important to the content that you're conveying, that also goes into the alt text.
So Dominique, I see a quick question in the chat box. Do you
Sure.
have any resources on how to write effective alt text?
Sure. So I will get to that in a couple of slides as to how and what resources we have to help you write effective alt text. So yes, that is something that's coming up.
Thank you.
No problem, David. Thank you. So another portion to make sure that you're incorporating is, I know that a lot of our faculty use videos to make their students feel included and to give content in a different way. So when you're using videos, a best practice is to incorporate closed caption into the video. The nice thing is that Kaltura does this for you. You can input your transcripts, you can input your closed captioning right into your Kaltura videos. And as you see here in this example, if you've taken the Blackboard Ultra Essentials course, you'll see that we have incorporated our closed caption here, which is a great way of helping the visually and hearing impaired. And I actually use closed caption on everything that I watch, just because I also like to read and hear it. So it gives that learner an additional boost. If I'm paying attention to something on the screen, I'm also reading it and I'm hearing it. So it gives that additional level. Another really cool feature that David taught me this week was adding speech tracks to to your items if you have an Apple device. And we can talk about how you do that towards the end. We can try and give you a demonstration. But what you do is you highlight any text that you have, and then you would right click on it if you have an Apple device. And there's a portion on your Apple device that says set to speech. Once you click that, it then creates a audio track of that content. And I thought that it would be really beneficial to use that in addition to Hypothesis, which is another one of our tech tools that we have here at C.A.L. So incorporating both the auditory and the visual aspect to help the learner gain that information. So if you're interested in that, please add it to the chat and we can kind of do a demonstration for you.
Hey, Dominique, this is Pat. How are you?
Hi, Pat. How are you?
Hey, I just want to touch a little bit about what you said about using Kaltura to add captions. I know last month I did a PD on creating compelling videos, and I know one of the questions that came up, I know Dr. King-Berry had asked about how do you add captions to the videos that are created on your Apple device. Well, just to piggyback on what Dominique said, you can definitely take those videos that were created on your Apple device and upload those to Kaltura, and it will add captions to that. And if you need assistance with that, like Dominique said, we can definitely assist you with that. Just reach out to me, David, or Dominique, and we can definitely get you going with that.
Yes, thank you, Pat, for that. That's awesome.
No problem. Thank you.
So another portion that you want to be mindful of is avoiding the use of colorful text. So I took this example from a really awesome syllabus that was shared with me a couple of weeks ago. And as you can see, it looks visually appealing to some, but one, you can't really clearly see what it's conveying. You can see the Japanese text here, but it's very difficult to read. If I was visually impaired, this would be a struggle for me, even with a screen reader. So you want to be mindful that you are, again, not using colors unnecessarily. When you're thinking about setting up your syllabus or text on any page or PDFs, you want to make sure that, as mentioned, you're using the styling, you're using heading, and you're minimizing the different fonts and colors that are used. So if I was to use coloring in a syllabus or in a course, I would, for example, say, okay, I would highlight, for example, a due date and say this due date is red as the alt text, and red implies the importance of when it's due. So that is something that you can use. If you're interested in using colors, we can definitely help you kind of navigate and understand that.
I just wanted to add that the use of the color red is not advised because it can trigger seizures. And most people don't think about that, even though there are not many people that have seizures, but just one could really, so we could kind of reduce the use of the color red.
That's an excellent, excellent tip. Thank you. Yes. So I have another question for the chat. Are there any barriers in your current course that you feel would create an issue for your students regardless of their disability? And then David, if you could monitor the chat.
You got it. And as we wait for some questions to come in, I see Fatma has a question. Can I use colors and headings?
So you can use colors and headings, but you want to avoid using colors and headings if they don't convey a certain meaning. So if you're just using them because you think the color yellow is great, that should be avoided. You want to make sure that there is a reason behind what you're doing and why you're doing it. And also there is a great resource that we can share this afternoon around which colors are most accessible in course design. And so I can share that as a resource for you guys. I'll send it to David and he can send it out to everyone. But yeah, there are a number of colors, just like, I'm sorry, I don't know who was speaking, but just as the tip said, like you want to avoid red, but you also want to avoid green because that is something that also triggers color blindness and people sometimes can't see the color green. So
yeah, and I see another one from Drew. Use of colors is also difficult for those with color blindness, so you want to avoid trying to convey meaning via use of color.
Yep. Great tip, Drew.
Yeah, thank you, Drew.
I think we talked about that a couple of weeks ago. So yes, that's awesome. So if the answer was yes, or you're not sure, our next slide really will help you with some amazing resources that are being offered this summer. So I'm gonna give you a drum roll in my office. And so this summer, a number of our C.A.L team have different resources set up. My resource is called the Course Makeover. And if you're interested in how to create more learner-friendly and engaging content, and also how to make your course visually appealing. I know that some people are interested in using imagery to convey information, and so many other things. We want to really push the use of inclusive and equitable design, as well as diversity and inclusion into our courses. So if you're interested in learning more, or you have questions, or you'd like to set up a consultation, my email is available. It's dominique.laws@udc.edu, which should not be hard for people, because if you think of Dominique Dawes, the Olympic gymnast, you just add an L and remove the E, and that's me. So also C.A.L has an additional element of resources. We have office hours, as well as these these professional development webinars. We have consultations. David and Pat do amazing high flex training, which you can see the next one coming up on the screen is August 5th through 12th. We have full summer programs with gradebook, DIY makeover, the professional development, and Blackboard assistance. And we have fun activities. Yesterday, we just had games and popsicles. So if you're interested in coming and having summer fun with C.A.L, we'll definitely let you know when the next events are. But I hope that you guys really learned something today about accessibility, and that if you're interested in learning more, you'll reach out and we can help you with your courses. So our next slide is just if you have any additional questions or concerns that David or myself could answer.
Excellent, Dominique. And if you do have any questions, feel free to put those in the chat box. But we would love to see the accessibility feature you mentioned about Apple.
Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing this screen. Hold on. And then let me pull up a website so that we can show that feature. Okay, so now let me go back to my Zoom. Bless you. Okay, so in order to create the speech track, I would highlight this text here. I would right click, and then I would say services. Then once I click services, it would say add music as a spoken track. I would select that. And then I could select the voice and type, and you can listen to, there's a plethora of different voices. I've used Alex, so I know that's what it sounds like. And then I would select continue. That would then open in my music. And I say not now. And then once I click this.
Join us for Ill Cats in the Wild on July 16th at the Tulsa Zoo. We have 100 free tickets available to faculty and staff. First come, first served.
So that's a really cool way in order for you to basically create a soundtrack or a sound bite of the content or information that you're looking to convey. So the learner has the ability to read it as well as hear it. And it's really easy to input into your course. You would just select the file and add it. So that was a really cool, when David taught me how to do that, I was like, that's so cool. Like, I really, really love stuff like that.
Does it automatically play when you highlight
well,
it?
no, you can select to play automatic when you input it into your course. So say, for example, if you're adding it somewhere, you can right click and say play when pressed, or when they come to the screen, you can say play when they hit this screen.
Excellent. Thank you, Dominique.
You're
I
welcome.
did want to highlight before we conclude today about the accessibility checker within Blackboard itself. So Dominique, if you don't mind, I'll go ahead and share my screen.
Sure.
And I'll just quickly go through on how you can find this and access it. So for this example, I'll be using my Ultra Sandbox. This is already included in Blackboard, but it's a really good check for how your content is laid out and what improvements you can make, really utilizing the guidelines that Dominique went over today. So if I go to my course and institution tools on the left-hand side, you'll see on the right, the first one for available tools, accessibility report. If I go ahead and click on that, you'll see that my accessibility is 93%, so that's pretty good, but of course, room for improvement. But if I scroll down, it'll show you what content with the easiest issues to fix. It'll also show you your individual content pieces and also the score. So this can really help with the improvements you can make right away within Blackboard itself. So again, to go ahead and find that, go to View Course and Institution Tools on the left-hand side, and then just click on Accessibility Report right here. You can do that within any of your courses on Blackboard. Are there any comments or questions about this? Definitely very helpful. Go ahead and check the chat box. Yes, and we do have resources on our website about Blackboard Ally. I'll go ahead and put those in very shortly, but if you do have any other questions, feel free to go ahead and put those in the chat box or unmute. I do want to put our resources in the chat box right now. So if you have any questions for the C.A.L team or for Dominique, I did list our email addresses there. So we have our general email, calhelpdesk@udc.edu. We also have Dominique Law's email, dominique.laws@udc.edu. If you are interested in any of our PD or office hours, click on that link with Calendly. This recording will also be added to our YouTube channel very shortly. We also have a survey. If you do have some time, these surveys really help for us to form our PD for the coming months. And last but not least, on the 21st, next Tuesday, I will have a ThingLink webinar all about exploring the ThingLink 360-degree library and also creating your own immersive experiences. So that will be very fun. And Dominique, are there any final thoughts that you can add? And I'll also add the website resource.
Yes, I'm going to add to the chat currently, and then David, you can add it. Hold on just a moment. You can add it in the follow-up email, but this is the website to check your color, contrast, and your fonts.
Excellent. Thank you, Dominique.
And it's been a pleasure. I look forward to meeting everyone who participated today and hopefully working with you. If you have more questions, or if you even have suggestions or tips on how you are using accessibility that you think would benefit everyone at UDC, we would really love to hear that so that we can share that information.
Excellent. Thank you, Dominique. This was a fantastic presentation. I see some wonderful comments in the chat box. And you know, Dominique and I talked about this webinar because whenever you're designing for accessibility, it really helps all learners. So you're not just helping one or two people, but you're really helping everyone. Thank you very much. We love your smile. Look at that. We love your smile.
Thank you. Thank you.
Perfect. Well, thank you everyone so much for coming here today. We know your time is very valuable. We hope that you have a great, fantastic weekend up ahead. We have a 3-day weekend, so really hope you enjoy that. And then hopefully next Tuesday, we see you for that ThingLink webinar. And with that, have a great afternoon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.